Okay. My name is Daniel Tejada, and I'm going to be sharing one of the SDAIE strategies that I'll be using during my lesson plan. Just a little bit of background on the lesson. The lesson is entitled The Devastation at Pearl Harbor. It's designed for a 11th grade history class. The California standard is 11.71, which is students analyze America's participation in World War II and examine the origins of American involvement in the war. The objective of the lesson is that students will be able to analyze the attack on Pearl Harbor and provide insight on how the attack led the U.S. into World War II. Of all the SDAIE strategies, the ones that I like to use the most incorporate a lot of technology. I think technology has really become the universal language, similar to music. Regardless of which country you're from, most developed countries are pretty familiar with technology. Most developed countries use technology in the classroom and so forth. So I feel when we have a chance to use the computers, use PowerPoint, use internet web-based type things, kids feel comfortable with that, regardless of their language issues or their EL levels. My lesson is again entitled Pearl Harbor, or the Devastation at Pearl Harbor. How I would start the lesson, kind of an introduction, is I would be showing a short video. The video would give a little bit of personal insight. It's a first-hand account on someone who was actually there at Pearl Harbor, a civilian there, and they were the ones they saw the planes coming in, and it talks a little bit about the insight. After the video, we would have a little bit of class discussion, and then I would go on to the PowerPoint. Again, the reason I like PowerPoints is because I think visuals are a great way to learn. Students get to see pictures and also give us a chance to interact in between slides. So my first slide would just be an introduction and giving the title of what we're doing. As I move on this slide, it kind of talks about basically how things were at Pearl Harbor prior to the bombing. At 7 a.m. December 7th, 1941, all things were peaceful. So I would kind of explain that to the class, walk around, and for my EL learners, I would go slowly with that, and I would ask them questions like, imagine yourself just on a normal day. You wake up on a Sunday, and you're doing your normal thing, and then all of a sudden some big tragedy happens. So we'd spend some time talking about that. This picture here, I think, provides a pretty good picture of the battleships that the Japanese used. There were 6 different battleships that carried 420 different planes on there, or attack planes. So again, a lot of open discussion. Nice to use the pictures, and in between each slide, some question and answer. Here, I would talk about the word surprise, and explain a little bit about the word surprise. For our EL learners, surprise, that might be a word they're just learning. So I would say surprise, almost like you're in shock. And at 7:55, that's when the first wave of attacks came in. And then here it talks about the primary targets, and again, I would be walking around explaining the ships that the United States had and so forth. From there, I talk a little bit about the second wave of attacks, and it talks about the air bases, military facilities. So the first wave, I'd say basically the first part of the fight was all about the ships. The second part was trying to get all the other military facilities. At that point, I would show a little bit of a map. This map here I think is nice because it gives kind of like a real insight. It talks about the first wave and how the Japanese kind of came in and how they bombed, and then the second wave over here shows how they came in from another angle. So I think again it gives a little bit a better visual, and that helps with the understanding. Again, another map, and I think concept maps are great to use. This map here talks or displays where the ships were at port at Pearl Harbor, where they were positioned, when they were attacked. And again, more visuals the better, I believe, as a great SDAIE strategy. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about the naval damage. It talks about the sunk ships. These are all the ships that were sunk, some of the big name ships that we know. And then here it talks about these ships were later brought back up and rebuilt. And then these are the ones that were destroyed, completely destroyed, the USS Arizona, USS Utah, and the Oklahoma. and so on. And again, we'll talk about that, the difference between being sunk and being able to be brought up, and these were completely destroyed and sitting at the bottom of the bay. We can talk about that and try to get some more insight. Throughout this presentation, again, I will be taking breaks so that they can work in their groups and discuss things, maybe discuss what they feel it was like, and so forth, and that's also part of the lesson. Here, I'm able to give the total using numbers. Again, numbers are very universal. So I think, we talk about the battleships that were sunk. So I list each one in terms of each type. So 4 battleships disabled, 13 other ships sunk or damaged, and then we talk about some of the other losses. And then we talk about the human casualties, people that were wounded or died because of the attack. And here we list them by number: military and civilian wounded, 1178, Americans killed, 2,335, and then civilians killed, 68. And again, I think this just kind of gives a more real insight of what was going on. Here, I would use this right here, links to a video. This video is President Roosevelt's Day of Infamy speech. It's about a 3-minute video, and they get to not only see some live, some clips of the bombing that was recorded by amateurs on that day. They also get to listen to the speech that President Roosevelt gave. Now we talk, I would move on to how this kind of got us into World War II. On December 8th, 1941, the United States declared war on Japan because of what happened at Pearl Harbor. And a couple of days later, Germany declared war on the United States, and Great Britain also declared war on Japan. And it kind of talks a little bit about how it all evolved into our participation into World War II. At that part of the lesson, we would spend some time talking about how would you react? How do you think America would react today if that happened? I would maybe bring them to something they might already know, something like the 9/11 attacks and how that kind of brought us together as a country, and to think back how it was back then. And here we talk about how mothers and wives, daughters went to work for the war effort, and how thousands of sons and husbands, men from all over the United States enlisted just to be part of it, just to try to help fight tyranny in the world. So, and then there are some references, and I would talk about references. Okay, back to me. Again, like I said, I think SDAIE strategies that use technology really help with the learning. This really gives a good opportunity for students to kind of get better visuals, gives us an opportunity for open discussion, and I think all in all, in terms of SDAIE, this really is beneficial. That is my strategy, and thank you.